All right. Hi, everyone. This is Peter Ashley. I am going to be starting pretty soon. We're just waiting for 2 p.m. Eastern to kick in, and there's a whole bunch of additional people still logging in. So I'm just going to give them a minute or so before I start the presentation. And if you guys can't hear me or anything like that, put up your hand now and type something into the chat, and then I can make sure that all the audio is working. All right, I'm waiting till it's about 1 minute over 2, and then I'm going to kick this off. All right, my name is Peter Ashley. I am the Vice President of Business Development for Applied Information. And today we're going to be talking about next generation connected school zones, what that means. So a bit of background on school zones. Majority of the systems in the past have been programmed by a small remotely programmable computer where you would type in the start and stop times of the school zones. And, after that, it kind of went to a paging system where you could send down information. And then the next generation was it went to a radio network system that you could start to actually send information backwards and forwards, but you had to manage a whole radio network. And now everything's gone to cellular. Cellular is very ubiquitous right now. So that allows us to connect to all of these different school zones and in real time change because of a big event, a snowstorm that's come in. You can automatically change your beacon scheduling based on weather events and things like that. At the same time, you can figure out, oh my goodness, someone's knocked down one of my beacons and get an alert that one of the beacons has been knocked down. So I'm going to go through a little bit in terms of what we're doing on the connected school zone beacon side. And the way that I'm going to do that is we're going to go through a short little presentation where I'm just going to use it as sort of a way of putting me through the next things that we're going to talk about. And then we're going to jump into some live systems out there in the field and showcase the user interface, what it looks like, how we actually go about changing a schedule, and some of the capabilities that we have. So thank you so much for spending the time and joining us on this webinar. And I'm going to jump straight into it. So a little bit of a background about Applied Information. We started in 2011, and obviously that was when the whole buildup of smartphones were coming in, and we decided to build this company around the cellular technology, taking all that stuff that gets put into the smartphones and try to make all of the traffic systems and the school zones work as easy as your smartphone. We've got some development offices in South Africa and India, and our main office is in Atlanta, where we've also got some regional offices in Texas and in California. Bit of a background, we're installed in 575 or more than 575 cities. We've got over 14,000 devices deployed in the field, and we've got 75 people that work for Applied Information, and over 50 of those people are all engineers and software developers. So we don't have a very big sales network. We work with partners in various different states who are the guys going out there and showcasing our products. And what we really focused on is adding new features, creating new functionality. And what's really exciting is all 575 customers all log into the same system. So when one customer requests a new feature, that feature becomes available for everybody. And that's an exciting part about this is every single time you log in to glance, you see new things and there's new features and new functionality, and it all just comes for free with the system. So, everything that one city finds out, something that they want to do, all the other cities also benefit from that, which is exciting. Bit of a background on the product lines that we do. The connected school beacon and school zone safety is a major product line of ours, where we provide remote communication to the school zones, also for pedestrian crossings, the RRFBs, and driver feedback signs. We consider all of those our beacon products. Then we involved with connected traffic signals. So that's communications to the traffic signal controller and to all the other devices within the cabinet. And so you can use your Centrac system or your Tactic system or whatever it is to download and upload different timing plans. And what we do on top of that device is also emergency vehicle preemption and bus priority, so that you can actually get the emergency vehicles through the intersections quicker. And then we do glance travel safety, connected vehicles. So we've made connected vehicles very easy. You can end up doing connected vehicles on the devices that everybody has, smartphones, where it's a free app that they can download. And this also works with our school zone safety and our pedestrian crossings and the intersections and driver feedback signs, dynamic message signs. So it's a whole way of connecting the citizens to your traffic infrastructure through the devices that they've got a very personal connection with their smartphones. So I'm going to go into that in just a little bit, but we're probably going to have a whole nother webinar just on connected vehicles and how all of that works. So I don't want to mix up too much of the connected vehicle stuff with the school zone presentation that we're doing today. So connected school zones. And what I love by this picture is you can access the whole system straight from your smartphone. This is Jacksonville, Florida here in the middle of the picture. And they have access to their school zones. They can see faults. They can program their school beacon straight from their smartphone or a tablet or their web browser. Doesn't make a difference. But it's made it accessible for people out in the field, because we found that a lot of the technicians are roving around. They're fixing a traffic signal here. They're doing something else. And, the smartphone's the easiest thing that they can get quick internet access to. So this provides a really great platform for people to actually have access to all of their school zones. So what we're doing is we're wirelessly monitoring and controlling the school zone flashes. So we're monitoring the solar panels, the batteries, lamp bolts, and we're able to schedule when to turn on the beacons, when to turn off the beacons, remotely override them. So there's a lot of functionality in that. So remotely changing the schedules, all of the schedules are loaded into the school beacon timer switch. It's not the central system telling each beacon turn on now, turn on now. Once you save your schedule, it saves it locally to the device. So even if internet connections, if a storm happens, or all the internet goes down and whatever happens, your beacons will still turn on locally. So it's all saved locally. And as soon as they turn on locally, they tell the central system, I've just turned on, so we can track everything. But it's a distributed intelligence system. It's not like a central system telling each beacon to turn on now, turn on now. We do lamp failure detection, which is really cool. So we able to, normally we were able to monitor 4 different LEDs. And now we've got requests in from other clients that want to monitor up to 8 LEDs. So we can actually monitor 8 individual LEDs and tell you whether or not one of those LEDs have actually failed. So when someone gets an alert on their smartphone, or as a text message or an email message saying there's a lamp failure, they actually know, all right, well, let's go there with a bucket truck because we're going to have to replace the lamp cell. So it gives people this information that they can respond to events much, much better. These devices are really easy to install. I think the latest one I heard was in Corpus Christi. They installed 180 beacons in, it was 8 days. I mean, so you can and that was only with 3 people. So, you know, you can go out and to install these things takes 15 or 20 minutes. Very, very quick. If you've got an old RTC or an LTEC time clock, we've got quick connectors that you just basically unscrew their system, screw our system in, and then you install the antenna. And we've got really good tools for online support and so on, which is really exciting. Monitoring the AC voltage, solar, and the batteries. I find that critical. We tell you whether or not your batteries are charging up correctly. We tell you whether or not the batteries are starting to fail. And looking at your solar panels, are your solar panels producing enough voltage to actually charge the batteries? So a lot of the times we'll send out an alert that actually the solar panels aren't charging up the batteries well enough, and it's because they're dirty or they're trees that have grown over it. But all of this data is there and available for you to look at and say, all right, maybe we need to get a tree trimming company out there, or man, these solar panels are under a huge amount of tree cover. Let's put a bigger solar panel and some bigger batteries in there. And that gives you a great way of looking into where potential problems are. You also get AC power failures. So if the power fails at your school zone and someone phones you in and says, well, the school zone isn't turning on. Yeah, yes, ma'am. There's currently a power failure event within the city, and we've notified Georgia Power to come out and get that fixed. So it gives you all the knowledge at your fingertips, which allows you to be able to make informed decisions. So when we package one of these devices up, we always include the timer switch, which comes with obviously a cell modem built into it. It's the connectivity and support plan. So what that is normally comes with 5 years or 10 years of connectivity and support, depending on what you want to do. But that is a 10-year warranty, 10 years of guaranteed connectivity. If the cell technology changes from, like it did from 2G to 3G or 3G to 4G and 4G to 5G, we will actually replace the cell modem chip in there for free. We also do over-the-air software updates, new features, new functionality as part of that, and new security over-the-air software updates. So all of these different things are part of it, and part of that package as well is the connected vehicle package that I'm going to come into it as well. So every single device comes with the central software. It's not like you're going to buy a central software system or anything like that. It comes with the device. So whether you buy 1 unit or 100 units, it's all included with the units. The whole idea behind this is to try to reduce the reduce the downtime of your devices and improve the response times. We generally know of a problem before the public phone's in now. We can send someone out there, they can go out and they can fix a problem before they get a call from a soccer mom saying, our school beacons aren't working. You know, we can actually go out and fix these things. This is a great thing that came from Tom Seaver from Gwinnett County. He's the Gwinnett County DOT director there. And he actually said that the result was that they had a 90% reduction in the number of calls related to the operation of school zone beacons, which is huge. You know, they basically said that freed up time for their guys to go out and fix traffic signals and do other things that preventative maintenance. So, you know, it frees up a lot of time to go out and fix and do other things because you've got control and monitoring of all of your school zones. This is a pretty cool picture. This is the glance central system, and you can see over here that this is all of the school zones for Georgia DOT, for instance. So they did they don't control each city school zone, but they do all the rural school zones for the different districts. And they did 800 odd school zones and got them all connected and monitored. And you can see how it spreads out in the whole state there. So we've done systems as small as 1 or 2 school zones, to systems of 800 plus school zones. This is the school beacon timer switch. Very simple device. This goes into your existing cabinet. We can retrofit it into pretty much any cabinet. It's got the cellular and the cellular and GPS antenna that gets wired into it. And there's a couple of inputs. There's a wiring harness that plugs in here, and that wiring harness you can, you plug in the solar panel and the batteries and your LED flashes. And, there's about 6 or 7 wires to wire up into the cabinet. Or if you've got an existing RTC system, you just disconnect the RTC system, and we have a retrofit connect or LTEC or whichever one it is. We can retrofit those beacons straight from our timer switch. What are some of the unique features that we have? One of the ones that I really like is we've got this internal battery inside of our units that tells you when there is a power failure event. So what's key with that is, there's a lot of power failure events. Interestingly enough, of our 14, 15,000 devices that we have deployed, the number one failure we detect on traffic signal controllers and all of the equipment out there are power failure events. So what's really cool is we've got a battery that runs these units for about 5 hours, and we can tell you when there is a power failure event. And we do the lamp fault detection. So we're detecting up to, I believe it's somewhere around the range of 8. We can do somewhere around 8 lamps or something like that now with this latest functionality that we're deploying in some of the places. So if you've got 8 different beacons plugged in, there was 1 or 2 places in Texas that had a huge number of beacons on both sides of the poles. So we're able to monitor each individual beacon and tell you whether or not one of your beacons or multiple of your beacons have failures. We're monitoring the battery voltage and the solar panels, so we can tell you whether or not the solar panels are actually charging your batteries, whether or not your batteries are charging correctly. And what's really cool is we have some artificial intelligence that runs in the background, looks at the way that your batteries have been charging and discharging over a 3-day period, and the same thing with your solar panels. And we tell you before something fails. So we look at the way that it's charging and discharging and say, this battery is starting to fail, or this solar panel is starting to not produce enough voltage, so that you can go out and fix a problem before it actually becomes a problem. We've got 16 amp relays. There are 2 relays on our devices so that you can monitor, 4 lamps in one circuit, another 4 lamps in another circuit, or 2 and 2 on one circuit. Or you can power on other devices, such as if you've got a driver feedback sign that you want to plug in and actually power it from here, you can also do that. The built-in cell modem. This is key. One of the things, if you ever dealt with cell modems, it's like a Wi-Fi modem at home as well. They fail from time to time. And then the first thing someone does is they pull the power out, put the power back in, and lo and behold, everything comes online. But because ours is an onboard chip, we're able to detect, and we have a processor behind it detecting, is the communication working? And if the communication isn't working, we're able to restart it. Now, we found that was great, but every once in a while, even just a restart in the cell modem didn't work. You had to physically power it down. So we've actually got an onboard power supply on the built-in cellular modem that allows us to power it on and off, so that we can guarantee that we have 100% cellular connectivity. And if we don't have the connectivity, we send an alert out there. Other key aspect behind that is, over the years, we've changed out a whole bunch of 3G modems to 4G. The whole city of Portland, we swapped out all of their cell modems from 3G to 4G. because it's just a chipset on a board that is easy to swap out. So this is the way that we've made it so that we can guarantee connectivity for the next 10 years, the next 20 years, the next 30 years, because one of the things that changes is cellular technology, but the actual boards themselves are all very similar. So we've got a small, cheap chipset that we can swap out. And because it's monitored by everything, it makes the communication so reliable. The onboard calendar, key, we save everything locally. These devices, once you've programmed them, they can run for 10 years with a local schedule scheduled into them. But everything is saved locally onto the devices so that if for some reason the communication's lost or whatever, the beacons are still going to turn on by themselves, and then they'll tell us that they've turned on. GPS time sync. All of our school zones have GPS time sync. So everything's synchronized with the GPS chipset, built-in GPS chipsets and built-in GPS receiver. We don't have like a separate GPS that you got to plug in and you know, set up your GPS position. What it does is, as you turn on the device, our antenna is a dual cellular and GPS antenna. So as you turn on the device, it automatically connects back and sends back its GPS position, which is quite funny at sometimes, because we've had one beacon that the contractor was had to remove it and install it in another location. We're sitting there with the client, and you see the school beacon bouncing along the map as it's moving to its new location. So, you know, all of those kinds of things, and because they left the power on by mistake while they're, you know, just solar beacon, and they're driving along with it in the car. But you can track all these things and exactly what's happening. You know, on and offs, and, you know, any odd reason, we then send it back to the central. So there's local storage on the units. Automatic configuration. This is really cool. When you go and when we provide school zones, we pre-configure everything. We ask you for a list of what your locations are. So, hey, we've got, you know, this and this school, and this is the, you know, where it is. We pre-configure everything before we ship it out, and we label it on the box so that when you go out and install school zones, it automatically knows the area, and you can pre-set up all of your scheduling. So once you install in the field, you just walk away. The only thing you need to do is test the beacon turns on. You know, you open up your smartphone, you turn the beacon on, and then turn the beacon off, and you can see that everything's communicating correctly, and then you're done. You don't have to go and plug in an Ethernet cable and do scheduling and all the rest, because it's all done beforehand. Highly secure system. You know, we NEMA TS8 cybersecurity compliant. We use HTTPS encryption with all of our devices. We have VPN connections and firewalls and a lot of stuff on the security side. But HTTPS encryption is the same encryption that you use when you do banking security. So we encrypting everything with 256K or 512K certificates. And I think my guys have told me, in current computing standards, if someone wanted to break into that, it takes 1,000 years of current computing standards to actually do something about that. Local configuration, you can also plug in an Ethernet cable and you can locally configure these units if needed. This was a feature that was required for Florida. Almost no one uses that from us, but it has the ability of doing that. Over-the-air software updates, major thing, because we constantly updating, upgrading, coming out with new features and functionality, and that's all included with our devices. So the connectivity and support plan includes over-the-air software updates. Email and text message alerts. I love this side of it, because you don't even need to open up our system to know when there's a fault. It'll send you a text message saying that the device has got one lamp failure, or you got a low battery voltage at this location. So, you know, you can take a battery out of the stock room, make sure it's charged, take it out there, and all of a sudden, you know, you can go and fix it. but you didn't even have to open up the central system because it's automatically sending you a text or an email message and telling you the location and what the fault is, so you can go out and fix it. We do signal strength, so you can see what the cellular signal strength is. And you know, if for some reason we've deployed 14,000 devices, we have never to this date not had a device in the whole of the US that we can't get connected. So, you know, our units have high gain antennas, and if we can't for some reason in the middle of Missouri where we couldn't get connectivity, actually we managed to with a different high gain antenna. So it's a case of just putting in the right antennas to those locations, and we support you with all of that. But we, to this date, have not had a location in the US that we can't get connectivity. Remote scenarios, we can create scenarios that you can turn all of your beacons on at once, all off at once. We did snow delays, or Hurricane Matthew comes through and you want to cancel all your beacons for the day. You can do it very quickly and easily. Dynamic map icons that have a red ring around it that show up and show that you've got a failure. So straight from just looking at the map view on the wall, you go and say, hey, what's happening at this beacon over there? You click on the beacon and then you can see what the fault is. And there's a lot of dynamic reporting. So you can see this is the report that everybody loves, is because you can look at this report really, really quickly and you can say, hey, there's a solar panel that isn't quite charging. You see it's only going up to 12.58 volts. So it's not, it's probably dirty, or maybe there's a fault behind it, but it's not charging up to a huge amount. Whereas the other ones are all going to 18 volts, 20 volts, 20 volts, 18 volts. So something's not quite right on this. The battery's still showing, you know, pretty good battery voltage, but it's not charging correctly. Okay, let's go out and see what's happening with that beacon. Same thing here. This battery isn't charging quite as much as the other batteries. So it's giving you a warning that it's not bad yet, but it's starting to fail. And then it'll also show you here bad if there's a battery that's actually failed. This is something that's really exciting that we've created just last year, which was our Knockdown Detection sensor. So it's a little device that goes into the cabinet as well, where you've got your school zone timer switch and your batteries, and it detects the tilt of the pole. So when you install it, it automatically calibrates itself and looks at the way that the earth is pulling it down, and so it's actually using an accelerometer in there and stabilizes itself. So if it falls over vertically or side to side, it will detect that within 30 seconds and send out a text message, email message that a knockdown has happened. And the reason for this is we find a lot of the times the school beacon gets knocked down, the power hasn't been kicked out of it and it's still actually running, but it's not showing a fault. Or same thing with school with the solar panel. It, you know, carries on flashing day in, day out, but no one from the public has phoned and said that the school zone's been knocked down, because the school zones are generally quite close to the roadway as well. So this is it's a very cheap device. Our school zone timer and reports that an actual knockdown event has happened. So you know immediately when something's happened, you know that you're going to need to get a crew out there to go and replace the school zone flasher. One of the things we do, you know, some of the times we get into a cabinet and it's, you know, the guys haven't replaced their school zone system in 15 or 20 years. All right, so they want to upgrade everything, and we've got base plates basically that you can put in that's pre-wired. It's got new solar chargers, new DC flasher units, and all you got to do is basically plug in your solar panel, plug in your batteries, and plug in your LEDs, and you've got a brand new system inside of your cabinet. Same thing for AC, you know, it's just different with a 204 flasher over there that you can plug in and do the AC side of it. So it's just to make life a little easier when you're doing a retrofit. Some cities can just retrofit it into the existing cabinets, whereas some want to replace out all the guts in the cabinet. So you just unscrew the old base plate, screw in the new base plate, and you're done. Some of the other things we do with the school zone system is radar feedback. signs. So we work with a number of different manufacturers, Carmanah Speed Checks, which was the old IDC, RU2, and Traffic Calm. We actually integrate, and we can get the speed information out of those radars. So 85th percentile speed, 95th percentile, median, volume of vehicles, and we can show all of that information and bring it back over the cellular communication, so you don't have to go out there and download all that information. You can also remotely change the speed limits. So if you want to, that comes in, we actually do an automatic system with when you have a dual school beacon and radar feedback sign at the same time. When the beacon turns on, the speed limit changes. So we automatically change the thresholds within that sign so that it now says, you know, speeding, slow down when someone's driving 35 miles an hour instead of 45 miles an hour because the speed limit's changed. We do the RRFB integration as well. We work with some manufacturers like Carmanah, but you can retrofit it into JSF, into TAPCO, and whatever other devices that you have out there. And we can actually go and monitor each individual RRFB and monitor the button presses. So has your button actually been pressed in the last couple of days? When are the activations happening? When do people actually walk? And we have a whole heat map that shows you when people are actually using your RRFB, and you can start monitoring it, the solar panel, the batteries, to make sure it's actually working, instead of figuring out when the mayor calls in and says, this thing hasn't been working for the last week, what's happening here? Well, this is going to give you the access to actually find out when the things are working and when they're not working. Now, I said I was going to touch on this, and I probably am just shortly, is we do something, a connected vehicle platform as well. So it's a smartphone app called Travel Safely, and it will actually warn you that you're speeding in a school zone when you're driving more than 5 miles above the speed limit. Now, the interesting thing with this is it's ended up being very beneficial also in securing funding. We've found that, you know, when you go to the council members and the mayor, they understand a smartphone connecting to the school zones to make it safer, to warn the children that they're speeding in a school zone. No one wants to speed in a school zone. They're driving to work and they're just not, you know, concentrating, and then all of a sudden, bop, bop, speeding in a school zone, and they slow down. And we've done studies with University of Florida that have shown using audible alerts in the school zones is slowing people down by 5 to 7 miles an hour. Just audible alerts. People wake up and their eyes start tracking the roadway and looking for pedestrians. So we've done a lot of studies and things like that, and it's really a life-saving technology. We also do, you know, you can see here, it's on the dashboard of the Fords. We've integrated into Ford Sync vehicles, and when there's a pedestrian walking across the crosswalk, it'll actually warn you that there's actually a pedestrian walking across there. So lots of cool features that we've built into this to make it kind of, it is the next generation school zone beacon, because we're not only warning people through the flashing beacon, but also inside of their vehicle now that there's actually pedestrians walking in that area. That makes the roadways that much safer. All right, I'm going to try jump out of this, and forgive me, my computer is becoming really slow running GoToMeeting and doing all these different things. I'm showing City of Sugar Land. They were one of our very, very early adopters, but one of the cities that have looked after their school beacons really well. And the reason why I say looked after their school beacons, they are really on top of, you know, as soon as anything starts to show that it's starting to fail, whatever, they're replacing their batteries and cleaning their solar panels and things like that. So it's just a really neat system. They don't have any rings around their devices. So it's using Google Maps. So you can use Google Maps here. You can go in and, you know, have the map view and satellite views, just the same way you would normally use Google Maps. So You can set however you want to see any of these things and showcase, whether it's map view or satellite view. You can zoom into areas of where the devices are in exactly the same way that you would use Google Maps on any kind of application. On the left-hand side here, you've got the names of the beacons. So they've got elementary, and then they've got East Austin Parkway, East Barrington Place, Elementary Barrington Place, Brazoria Bend, Commonwealth, whatever it is. But you can see these are the different beacons on the map here. You can search for a beacon. You can also, click on beacons straight from the map and get access to those different beacons to actually go and figure out any kind of issues that you have. So I can click on a beacon right here, and it's going to pop up with some details about that beacon. And so here we can see this is the Ellis Creek southbound Walker, and the current system voltage is 12.8. The solar array is 13.9. Currently, the beacon is off, and the next scheduled event is at 3:15 Central Time. And I can now click into more details. So what this is giving you, just a snippet of information, and now I'm taking you to the next level of detail. What's really cool, this is telling us it's running their normal school schedule, and you can name these schedules however you want. It's also showing us the beacons turned on Tuesday, Wednesday, today, but they didn't turn on Monday. Monday was a public holiday. So, you can see exactly what's happening. The solar panel, this is the voltage of the batteries. And you can see they're looking very healthy. It's staying within this band. They're charging up quite nicely. And I can guarantee you today and yesterday were very cloudy days or rainy days in Houston, because this is excess power charging up the beacons. This over here was a cloudy day with just a little bit of sun. Yesterday was a very cloudy day, and today is a cloudy day in Houston. I don't know if it is, but I'm pretty sure it is, because I can see the batteries aren't getting excess charge to the solar panels. So, it gives you a lot of information just over here that you can see what's happening with all of these different devices. I can go in here and I can turn the beacon on. I can turn it off manually, but I can see the next scheduled event is 3:15 to turn on and 4 p.m. to turn off. Very, very simple. And we try keep it nice and simple because we want to have a nice, simple user interface for people to make changes. So they've got this schedule over here, and it's really cool. The way that we've done the scheduling is we've split out the start and stop time from the holidays and exceptions. Because generally the start and stop time for majority of the schools stays the same year to year, but holidays and exceptions change all the time, every year. So you can see it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 7:15, turn the beacon on. 8:15, turn the beacon off. 3, turn the beacon on. 4, turn the beacon off. And if you want to change it, you can click on edit, or you can just double click over here, and we can select a different time over here, select a different command, and then all you do is you select, because we're going to do it for all of the beacons, you can select 1, 2, 3, or you can just click on the school, and it'll select all the beacons for the school, save and publish, and now you've sent new schedules for the schools. But holidays and exceptions, okay, it asks, I so-called made a change, so it wants to know whether or not I want to go away from that. So now holidays and exceptions are very simple. So you can see it's all done by the dates over here. And you can see January, February 14th to the 17th, that's just occurred. And the next event that they have is spring break from March 9 to March 13, beacon off. Now, let's say you had a special event, a professional day, or an early release that you wanted to do. You can select different schedules over here. So you can save a different schedule under the scheduling for an early release schedule or professional day. And you can tell it to go to what we call an exception schedule. So on that day, it's going to run a professional day schedule, which is a shortened day. We try to keep it really, really simple. And you can actually, if you know that all your elementary schools have the same holidays and exceptions, I can send these holidays and exceptions to all of the elementary schools with one click of a button. Send it out to all of those elementary schools, and now you're done. But not all the times to all the elementaries. You can have some private schools and things like that that have different holidays and exceptions. So you can select which schools you want to send it to as well, and all the middle schools and all the high schools. So you can set up how you want to basically send out that information. And then program delay is designed for, let's say we know hurricanes coming through tomorrow. We can select tomorrow, and we know schools are going to be canceled. So we select tomorrow, the morning and the afternoon, and we just go, instead of delaying it, beacons off. I can hit add new, and now it's going to create a command that I can go and select all of the beacons and hit publish. And what it would do is cancel school for tomorrow, the beacon's turning on, and then on Monday, it's going to start again. Because the interesting thing with all of this is a lot of studies have shown if you go and if you show someone incorrect information, in other words, if you leave your beacons on during summer vacation or spring break, people stop seeing the beacons because they know in the back of their head, hey, school's on vacation. Why are they flashing these beacons? But then the next time that they drive through and there really is school on, they don't slow down because they don't trust the system. So it's really important to turn the beacons on and turn them off when schools are actually in session, or if they're not in session, turn them off. Very, very, very important. We've got radar feedback signs as well that we can connect up, and you can set up the offsets over here, the speed limit, the steady speed, flashing speed, slow down speed, maximum speed. So there's a whole bunch of different things that you can set up in the driver feedback signs that allows you to do that. And then there's scenarios that we can set up a scenario that will turn on all beacons and all beacons on, or all beacons off, or all beacons on the schedule. But generally that doesn't happen very often unless there's some kind of emergency event. One of the important things is reports. So here, if we wanted to go look at, hey, what do the solar beacons look like in City of Sugar Land? Let's compare all of the beacons against each other. So now we can look at this and we can go say, okay, this is what a normal good solar voltage looks like. This one's not quite charging up quite as well. This one over here hasn't charged up in the last couple of days. And you can see that that's probably because there's been some bad weather over the last 2 days, but none of them have been dropping rapidly down. So I'm just looking at all of them, and I don't see any. These are some spare units that they have here. I don't see any batteries in their system that look bad. You would see them drop down below a certain voltage over here. And pity, I'm looking into their business on that side. But you can also look at the school beacon health report, and we can see if there are any bad items or any fair items. And as I said, with City of Sugar Land, they look after their beacons really, really well. So they don't have any bad beacons over here. So, which is great. I mean, I love it when I log in, because they didn't have this kind of level of control of their school beacons before they put the system in. And now they make sure that all of these beacons are working correctly all the time. We can obviously look into a lot of stuff like the driver feedback signs and things like that as well, that will show you, more information about, what's happening with different, the driver feedback in terms of, has there been, what's the average speed of the vehicles and things like that. But I'm not going to go into too much details of that today. City of Marietta's got a much larger system than City of Sugar Land, because they do all of their intersections. They monitor all their intersections. They monitor all their driver feedback signs. Then they control all of the emergency vehicles, so they give them emergency vehicle preemption. They do some RRFDs as well. So they're doing a hell of a lot more down there. But, obviously very similar on the school beacon side in terms of, looking at what's happening on the different school zones. And you can see driver feedback signs. Here's let's go, I'm just scrolling down here. And you can see all of these driver feedback signs, and they've got some pedestrian crossings over here. So you can see we have different icons for different devices. So, driver feedback sign, you got an icon that looks like a driver feedback. And when you've got sorry, my computer's running a little slow here. When you've got a device for a pedestrian crossing, it's going to show you information for pedestrian crossing system. So they're looking at the solar array and number of buttons. No one has used this pedestrian crossing in the last hour, interestingly enough. So you can see when the buttons have actually been activated. How many button activations have we had in the last hour? So there's a lot of information that comes back from all of these devices. But the critical thing is whether or not you have a red ring around any of these devices. So here you can see this is, it's not a very busy road. There's only 5 vehicles that driven down this road in the last hour. And the average speed has been 25 to 85th percentile is 28 miles an hour, 95th percentile is 29 miles an hour. So, very, very quiet road there, but they've got driver feedback signs along this road because they've got a lot of entrances and exits. And you can see that it's, you can see the median speed here kind of jumping around, but you can also see the volume of vehicles is really, really low. Maximum of 30 vehicles per hour. So it's a very quiet road where these signs are actually deployed over there, which is great. Tells us a lot of information about them. And we do additional reports as well in terms of, what's happening at that driver feedback sign to actually go and look at whether or not there's a reason to have a police person down at that area because people are speeding along there. So we can see whether, as a city, they can look into it and say, all right, what should we do at those locations? And you can go into all of these different locations of different devices. And what's really cool is, and I'm logged into the wrong system now just because these are every one of the beacons in Marietta are all AC beacons. But I can go in here and I can go in and also utilize Google Maps. So we can see exactly where this beacon is. And let's say if we had a problem with, solar panels, we could see, hey, have the trees grown over the school beacon? And you can see there's actually where the device is installed on the pole. You'll see there's a little cabinet. There's our device that's GPSly located onto the pole. And when the Google car went around here, it was actually showing that the beacons were actually flashing at that time. So you can utilize all these features behind Google Maps as well to see, hey, are there lots of trees around there? Is that maybe the reason why we've had a problem with the solar panels not charging? So it's giving you a lot of information around here, telling you, what's actually been happening at these different locations. You can see there's an emergency vehicle at this location over here, and we can actually go in and see where that location is, and that's the fire station. So yeah, there's just a huge amount of information that's available that provides you information on what's happening at all of your school zones, any kind of failures that you're currently having. But it also allows you to connect up RRFBs and know, are my solar panels working? Are my driver feedback signs working, intersections, and so on. So it's this great system that allows you to see at a quick glance the name of the system, everything that's working or not working. I'm going to see if Jessica wants to hand over and ask some questions. So if you guys have got some questions that you would like to ask in terms of anything that I've discussed over here, please ask the questions, and I'll do my best to go in and answer some of these questions. And I've actually just clicked on, you can see how I've changed the view over here to City of Marietta and only showing their beacons. So we've got all these layers that if you want to see just beacons, or if you want to see just intersections, or different types of devices, you can go in and see all of that kind of information really quickly with a quick view. And you can have different logins with the system. So people that have access to just school zones, some people have just access to fire emergency vehicles, driver feedback signs. So you can have a whole bunch of different access levels as well on the side of this. I'm going to go and see if I can see questions. Have you integrated travel safely into other vehicles other than Ford? We are busy working as well with Audi now. We've signed an agreement with Audi that they are going to be doing integration with travel safely into the Audi vehicles. We're also working with bringing in the Android Auto as well as the display, as well as the Apple CarPlay as well. All right, let's see. How do we get travel safely to work with our school clocks? Great question. From Greeley, Colorado. So the way that it works is just contact us. What I would do is contact either it'll probably be John Snyder or John Beal or myself. And it's a process of drawing map files. So what we've got to do is basically set up that there's on this approach and this approach, this is what the speed limit is of the school zone area. And basically we draw the map files, and then when the school zones are in session, you just have to drive through there and you can see that it's actually providing you these alerts. It's about, a couple of minutes to do that. Timothy, I know you can monitor multiple lamps. Is it possible to tell which exact lamp it is? Yes, when you have, so when we're doing 4 lamps, we can tell you exactly which lamp it is. When you're doing 8 lamps, we can tell you that 1 lamp, 2 lamps, or multiple lamps have failed. Will there be an app for the smartphone for glance instead of using a web page? I've noticed that my phone, it can be a pain to do changes of a web view. We've looked at that. There's probably something we'll do. We're looking at doing an app, not to replace glance, but an app that's mainly for technicians, for them to basically go in and it'll, if you logged in, it'll automatically connect you to the beacons ahead as a smartphone app. That's probably something that we'll do later in the future, but not something that we have currently right now as an app on the smartphone to do all the same things as glance. All right, don't be shy, everybody. Ask questions. I know I haven't gone through all of the different things, but it's obviously, we've got lots of different, people that you can also speak to as well from the different areas of where we have devices deployed. We've got thousands and thousands of these deployed all over the country. So, if you're looking at, putting in a system, please contact us or contact one of our representatives, because we can actually go and, what we do often is we can put in some demo units and things like that so that you can actually try these things Because one thing that we've seen is when people see our system and someone else's system next to each other, this is just so much more modern. It's using all the modern technology of browsers and all the rest that made it so simple to use, which is really exciting. Timothy, what's the price of the knockdown sensor? Yeah, I'd have to check with the folk. It depends on where you are, but I think for just the actual sensor itself is probably like $60. So it's a real cheap item that can go into the school zone. But you'll need to obviously someone's got to go out there and install it. So you can just there's 2 wires to connect onto it. So if you're getting someone to actually install it for you, they'll probably charge you more to actually go and do the installation and all the rest. But the actual little chipset's only like $60 or so. So it's not a very expensive piece of hardware to add to it, and it will work with all of our existing beacons. So if you've got our current school zones and you want to add knockdown detection to it, it's just purchasing a knockdown sensor and wiring it in, and it's 2 wires. That's it. So you just wire in the 2 wires. Very, very simple. It's been one of those products that we didn't realize how much of a big thing it was until we actually started talking to people, and how school zone knockdowns is actually a big problem, because when the beacons get knocked down, most of the times people don't know that a beacon has been knocked down. And these same knockdown sensors can actually get installed into traffic cabinets as well, into any kind of pole that's on the side of the road. So it's been a great way of doing that. Mario, is the knockdown sensor a separate device, or is it in our school zone? It's a separate little unit. So it's about this size. It's smaller than a little flasher. It's smaller than a sun saver, and you can just install it. Often people just use double-sided tape to put it into the cabinet, or if you can go and drill it in with these 2 little drill holes over here, you can drill it in and you can wire it into the cabinet. How much does an AI unit cost? I'd have to get the Val. I'd need to get the guys from the distributors in your area to price it out to you. But if you can contact ourselves, Jessica Shin, or myself, the email that it came from, we can get you in contact with the representative of your area, and they can provide you pricing. It also depends on the length of the connectivity and support plan that we provide with the units. So how much of the data fees? The data fees come with the units, and it's we don't call it a data fee, we call it connectivity and support, because our connectivity is guaranteed connectivity, and it's also an extended warranty on the hardware for the length of the contract, upgrading of the cell modems, travel safely comes part of that connectivity and support plan when you enable it on the devices. So there's obviously it depends on the length of the contract that you want, and we go anywhere from 1 year or month to month to 5 years, 10 years, and the longest we've done has been a 15-year contract for some of the clients. So there's also going to be some handouts as well that you can just download on the GoToWebinar if you guys want some of those things. If you're an existing client as well and you want to get some more information, we've got some great new manuals on school zone beacons. Please reach out to me or reach out to Jessica, and we can actually go and send you all that information. There's also a lot of YouTube videos that show you how to install it as well. And the email that Jessica is going to send out is also going to have where to find all these resources and where to actually where to find all that kind of information. Have you, Val, you got one more question. Have you ever encountered units that won't work with AI? No, in the beginning, yeah, we had, in other words, there was 1 or 2 flashes and things like that we had to figure out different ways of wiring into the flashes, like different flasher controller units. But no, we've never ever had a location where we can't connect to it and actually flash the beacons. So it's a pretty simple, it's a very simple thing to install. The only time it becomes complicated is when you're doing, 6 or 7 lamps or something like that you're wanting to monitor all of them. We've got to use both of the relay outputs because we're monitoring the current. We're not just monitoring voltage to the lamps, we monitor the current to the lamps. So we actually determine whether or not there's actual current flow to the lamps to determine if there's a failure. Awesome. I'm at 3 o'clock Eastern time. I want to thank everybody for joining in on this call. Really appreciate your time, and please reach out to us. We're happy to help providing additional training, more technical training, installation training on any of these products, and we'll definitely follow up with you if you guys want to get some information on pricing and things like that. We'll come up and follow up with you. If you want to send the information, you can also send it to training@appinfoinc.com. That's training@appinfoinc.com. Or you can send it to myself, which is pashley@appinfoinc.com. So thank you so much for your time, and look forward to hearing back from any of you guys, and any feedback would be absolutely great from you. Thank you very much.